So let's go ahead and keep the train rolling here at Mainframe Comic Con 2.0. Our next guest, I am so excited to have him here on Mainframe, a new friend of mine, guys. You know him. He starred as Bobby Budnick in Nickelodeon's Salute Your Shorts. He appeared on some of the most beloved 1980s series, including Diff'rent Strokes, Growing Pains, MacGyver of all things, Dukes of Hazzard, Mr. Belvedere. He was the voice of Montana Max in Tiny Toons Adventures and is currently working on a project I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about. So please put your virtual hands together for my new best friend, Mr. Danny Cooksey. How's it going? Oh my God, are you at the beach?
Yeah, well, no, I'm outside. It's such a nice day here, so I was like, you know what? Let me come outside here and enjoy the beautifulfulness.
Absolutely. See, you're doing it right, man. You know, we're all stuck here in social quarantine. Might as well just step out on the back porch or something and enjoy
Right?
what looks like a beautiful California day.
Right, it is. Yesterday was like rainy and like gross, and I was like, oh, forget this. I'm gonna get my pasty ass some sun.
Well, let's go ahead and dive into it, man. I mean, first and foremost, I'm curious, kind of, what are you up to during this time of social quarantine, man? Are you binge watching anything cool on TV?
Man, jeez, yeah, too much. That's all I do is like sit out at night. I started Space Force last night. That was pretty funny on Netflix.
I haven't started that yet. Is it good?
You know, it was pretty funny. I watched the first one. It was funny. Watched the Jeffrey Epstein thing. My daughter is yeah, not as funny as Space Force, oddly enough. My daughter, I have a 21-year-old daughter, and she's like does the whole like Marvel thing. So she's like, you have to watch all of these movies, Dad, and like in order. Here's the list. Here's a link to how to watch them. I'm going, this seems like very complicated. And so I've been doing that. So
your
you've got time on your hands.
I mean, why not start the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe from the beginning?
Yes.
It's only like 48 hours worth of TV watching.
Yeah, you know, and I've got the time to do it, so it's been enjoyable.
Yeah, we actually started because we were just talking right here, Danny. We actually started the entire Star Wars saga, and it took us about 2 days to get through, including all the Mandalorians. So I feel you,
those
brother.
were fantastic. My daughter's 21 and my son is 9. And so, yeah, we've done the Star Wars thing on many occasions. And then I tried to do it with my daughter. She was like, eh. I think we got through like the first 3 or 4.
More of a Star Trek fan. Well, I mean, dude, your career spans decades upon decades. Even before your appearance in Terminator 2, you were already a very successful working young actor. I want to ask just a little bit about in 1991, your appearance in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, what's been your opinion of the entire Terminator franchise since Terminator 2? You can be honest.
I mean, it's got high points, it's got low points. I'm pretty partial to the one that I was associated with.
It's the best one. I mean, it helps when it's the best one.
Right, for sure. But they're all. I mean, it's such a unique. It has like a relevance to it. Even as far-fetched as it is, it's, there's something that you go like, well, we're not that far from this, that I think people have always just sort of attached to, you know?
Skynet is practically a real thing right now.
It really is. It's kind of crazy.
We're 3 days out of smart drones just flying around deciding who they want to bomb and who they want to.
Right. There was literally just like a drone flying overhead, like as I walked outside, and I'm going like, who's behind this? It's like probably a nosy neighbor.
Well, I mean, let's talk a little bit about your role in Terminator 2. I mean, we're going to deep dive on your entire career in the next 30 minutes, but Terminator 2, I mean, one of the greatest things I think about Terminator 2 is the relationships between all of the characters, the relationship between John and the machine, the relationship between John and Sarah, and the relationship between you and Ed Furlong's relationship was phenomenal. I mean,
you got to tip your hat to Jim Cameron. I mean, the man knows how to tell a story, no matter what you do. And at the heart of every story is like relationships, and that's always at the forefront of all of his movies are these little moments that just sort of like bring you in.
So going back to the casting process, I mean, did you and Ed know each other before the film at all? Was there was the relationship something that they were really looking for in these two characters?
No, we met on set. I mean, went there and just sort of was there. I was actually on set quite a bit. There were so many days that I was there that they were like, you know what, we might get a chance to get to the ATM machine, or we might, I would do like maybe, one or two shots of like zipping up and down a street on a motorcycle, or just like little things like that. So we were on set in studio, in the school studio, and just sort of like there for I was there for quite a while. I was there for a lot of it. I was there the day that they launched the semi truck into the wash. So got to see, it was really cool to be a part of such a huge production and to be physically there, even though I wasn't necessarily in the, well, I guess I was in that action sequence, but not in that necessarily shot, but to watch something that huge and that big and just a setup for it and the anticipation as they're going like, all right, here, this is it, everybody, this is, we got one shot at this. So, is everybody ready as they, they do this huge, huge stunt? It was pretty impressive to see. And I'm super blessed to have been there that day and just been a part of something that iconic and, it was an amazing experience for sure.
So was that actually you and Ed on the dirt bike, or did they have a stunt double zipping around?
At times we did have stunt doubles. They were actually in a lot of, like I said, there was a lot of like sort of there and them like doing, because all throughout the San Fernando Valley where they were, there's these like sort of washes go everywhere. So no matter what they were doing, they always sort of had availability to like, knock out a little thing here, knock out a little thing there. And there was a couple of days that, even the stunt people work, because it's pretty like green and mossy, it's the drainage canal, so it's like there was a few people dropping. There was it's hard to tell who was who. Luckily I had that super mullet, which is very easily wiggable.
You were rocking that for several. So you're saying the all the trash and stuff down in the LA River wasn't put there by James Cameron? That was actual
that's organic LA trash. Or as they like to call it, the Los Angeles River.
That's why they shoot so much in LA. There's just trash everywhere. You don't got to bring your own.
No, you don't have to set decorate or anything.
Well, Terminator 2, I mean, people probably know. I mean, that was actually one of Ed Furlong's first roles, but you had been working in Hollywood since you were just a babe, just a small child. I mean, Diff'rent Strokes. If you Google your name, one of the first things that comes up is you on Diff'rent Strokes.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about go ahead.
Yeah, that was 1984, I believe it was. I started singing country music when I was like in Oklahoma, where I'm from, at a young age, and ended up sort of through Mickey Gilley and Johnny Lee and the sort of like soundtrack and performers from like the Urban Cowboy movie, ended up sort of getting like hooked up with them and ended up coming to Los Angeles to do something with those guys, and ended up doing an episode of Dukes of Hazzard. I had a manager that just kind of went like, hey, I've got a friend that's a casting director. Let's send you over. We're here for a couple of weeks. Maybe you get a commercial. I ended up doing like a Hot Wheels commercial and an episode of Dukes of Hazzard in that little, 2-week span. And then about 6-7 months later, came out to do some more stuff. Same sort of deal, another casting director, and ended up over at NBC with Diff'rent Strokes, and initially thought it was a guest. They told me it was a guest. I was auditioning for a guest role that was, Arnold was going to befriend this kid from school that was also adopted, and take this sort of big brother role. And then on a Friday, it was actually a Friday the 13th, I was sitting in the Howard Johnson's hotel, and before cell phones, and there was they brought you have a message, and so they bring out a corded telephone to the table, and my manager sort of took this call and said, well, all right, well, you got the part for the Diff'rent Strokes thing, except it's a little different now. It's not a reoccurring role. It's the man is going to get married, she is going to have a child, and you're going to be a regular cast member. And I found out on a Friday. On Sunday, we took wedding pictures, and I started work on Monday. So it was literally like a snap of the fingers, and I was a regular cast member on a primetime television show.
And then
and
it just
lived
kept
and
on
lived
going.
for a year. Yeah, and lived for a year at the Sheraton Universal. So
phone cords and all.
yes, right.
Well, I mean,
Landline and all.
there's no way we can sit around with Danny Cooksey. I know the fans and people watching the show at home would beat me senseless if we didn't talk a little bit about your Nickelodeon career. People don't quite realize. People watching now who are maybe under 30 years old don't quite realize the massive, crazy phenomenon of Nickelodeon in the late 1980s and in the late 1980s, early 1990s. The post you can't do that on television era
Yeah,
of
yeah,
Nickelodeon with shows like your show, Salute Your Shorts, Clarissa Explains It All, the whole Snick thing. I mean, Jesus guts. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on forever. What can you tell us sort of about kind of that time period? Well, first of all, Salute Your Shorts.
yeah. That was another. I mean, you just sort of do these things, and I remember we were like we filmed in L.A. and we weren't really part of. I mean, we were, but we weren't. Like we didn't film in Orlando at like the Nickelodeon studios. We were sort of this like independent little production out in LA doing the show. And I remember it was probably in between the seasons. And cable was not sort of the juggernaut that it is today either. So I remember we went to Orlando to do like some of their game shows and do an appearance at the Nick studios and stuff. And there was like a school trip and they started singing the theme song. And that was that moment that you go like, wow, I guess people are watching this because like I said, cable wasn't necessarily cable. We just, we're sort of off on our own doing this little show. And, that was that moment you go like, wow, this is like people are watching, people are actually tuning into this. And it was fun, man.
I mean,
It was a different experience, totally from what I was used. I came out of like 4-camera sitcoms, that sort of single camera work where it's like made like a movie where you do like takes and takes. I was more out of that, 4-camera sitcom. We did 2 sort of almost like plays. We did it from beginning to end. If someone messed up, we went and did it again, but not this. That was different because it was like, oh, we did that take. All right, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? Like from take to take, you really got to sit and play and really take your time. It was a different experience, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
well, I definitely want to open it up to people in the live chat, guys. Our director, if you want to throw stuff up, but I got the most profound tweet the other day when somebody found out that you were there, and it struck me as insanely profound, the most crazy thing I've heard this entire time, and it's a specific episode of Salute Your Shorts, and it was like it's almost art imitating life or life imitating art. I'm not sure. It's an episode of Social Quarantine between Bobby Budnick and I believe it was the Michael character, where there was a chickenpox episode, and you guys stuck indoors doing what we're all doing right now, putting together puzzles and hanging out together. I don't really have a question. Funny. It just struck me as funny.
That's funny. We were so far ahead of our time.
BA in the house asks, why did Michael leave camp early on? We got a lot of Salute Your Shorts fans in the chat.
I think you'd have to ask Eric MacArthur that question. I don't know what happened there. I know he had he was like really busy with school and just a lot of things. That's not. I have no idea. I just sort of showed up and did my thing.
I'm sure there's probably going to be some romantic questions at some point in the chat room, but
oh boy.
BA in the house also asks, going back to Terminator 2 and the You Would Be Mine video, I think is what he was referring to. Did you get to meet Axel or Slash during You Would Be Mine?
No, but it was funny. The production had given me a cassette tape for those scenes, and it was Higher Ground by the Red Hot Chili Peppers and I Want to Be Sedated by the Ramones. And they were like, we just want to give you this just so you know sort of the music that's going to be in the background during these scenes. And I was like, all right, cool. I knew both of those songs really well. And then, I don't know, it was a month, at some point later, I was given another cassette. And it was like, all right, we actually, Guns N' Roses, we're going to use this song from their from the unheard, long-awaited album. And I remember at 16, 17 years old going, I'm pretty much the shit right now walking around with an advanced copy of a Guns N' Roses song that nobody else has. So, that was pretty fucking awesome.
I mean, that bootleg tape, who knows who touched that bootleg tape before you did? I mean, Jesus, that could have been Axel's copy of a copy of a copy.
Right? Yeah, you never know where that came from. But I just remember being like, oh man, this is freaking awesome.
So you just sat there with your ghetto blaster on the back of a dirt bike and just started rolling down the LA River.
Charles, or blasting it in my car every day.
Charles Riley asks, can you share any experiences on the Idiot Box? Such a weird and awesome show.
It was, that show, that was another one that I had done. I'd met Alex Winter. I did the Bill and Ted cartoon at Hanna-Barbera. And just somehow I ended up, it was just like this sort of like, hey, you want to go do this thing? And the first one that I did, it was like a prank phone call and I got electrocuted. It was such a unique experience. And then another skit that I did over there, we ended up taping it on like the living room set of Beverly Hills 90210. And Ricky Lake and I played brother and sister, and we got into like this huge fight. And it was such a, it was so fun, and he's fantastic and just a great guy. And another thing that is just like, it's one of those, you just go, yeah, I had the amount of like just little experiences that I go like, man, that was like so happy to have been a part of something like that.
I imagine Alex Winter is just as nice as you are. You're like the nicest guy on the planet, by the way. We talked on the phone, and I was like, "Oh
thank you
God,
very much.
This guy's cool, man. This is like this is the coolest dude."
Yeah, no, he was fantastic. It's so much fun too.
I want to talk a little bit about your voiceover work. As people may not be aware, I mean, you were Montana Max on Tiny Toons Adventures. We just got a viewer question from Lindsay Farms Kitchen. Writes, "You have a great voice. Have you done or planned to do any voiceover? Obviously, you have."
I have, yeah. I plan on doing that, and it was weird. I was really sort of. I've probably done more years of that than I did on camera work. I sort of stopped doing on camera stuff about 17, and because I had sort of picked up when I was younger, and sort of around the end of Diff'rent Strokes, started doing stuff as like the little kid stuff at Hanna-Barbera, and then did Tiny Toons, and it just sort of continued on. And it was just it's amazing that they pay you to do that work, because it's hardly working. It's you go in, you have fun, you make funny voices, you try to make people laugh, and an hour later you go home.
Yeah, we had Jeff Garlin on, comedian and actor Jeff Garlin on the show yesterday, and he talked in great detail about his work he said his voiceover work and his work for Pixar has been some of his more rewarding work that he's ever really done.
It is so much fun. It is so much fun. And so, sometimes you're there by yourself, and that's a whole thing, but it's great when you sort of have, like when we did Tiny Toons, it was pretty much a like group cast record a vast majority of the time, and to just sit and just watch these brilliant people as a group, and just it was an amazing experience.
That's so funny you said that, because we just got one from Shauna Lindsay. Says, "Love you, Danny. You've done so much voice acting. How does it compare to on screen?" Dude, you're like seeing these comments in the future, and I swear to God, if you people are watching this, he does not see these. He's answering questions that aren't even asked yet.
It truly is an amazing experience.
We got a question.
I've had some amazing ones.
Somebody on Twitter, they're very much into the Nickelodeon stuff right now. They asked about your appearance in Wild and Crazy Kids. I totally forgot about that show until I just saw this. Tell us about your experience in Wild and Crazy Kids.
Gosh, let me see. That was another one. It was weird. I had like worked so much and was doing so much. It was like these things seem like they pop up out of nowhere. And I'm sure there's probably some phone calls, and I think there was pre-email stuff that went before that. But it was like, I showed up at the Burbank Mall, and I think I remember throwing like bean bags off like the top floor or something like that. And
not exactly the high point of your career.
Right. Yeah. Well, it was just like it was just a thing. I didn't really watch a whole lot of TV because I was like working. So it's like in retrospect, looking back, it's like I see all these comments about these little things that were sort of these one-off little, like, hey, you're going over here for a couple hours to do this thing. And it was like, okay. And then, you look back, like, Hey Arnold is a perfect example. I did the voice of Stoop Kid. It was maybe a half hour's worth of work that I went in, I think, on like a lunch break and did. Yet it is one of the ones that I get like more questions and more people coming up going, "You were a Stoop Kid," and it was, it was just this like, little thing that I did that takes on this whole life of its own. And it's one of those, as an adult, I look back and just, it's these little pinch me moments of just feel blessed to be part of all of these little projects and things that people have attachments to.
You have lived the life, my man. I mean, you're a jack of all trades: television, movies, voice acting, and music. I remember back in the Salute Your Shorts days, guitar always played a very big part of the Bobby Budnick character. You had a band then, back in the Nickelodeon days. What's the music career looking like right now for Danny Cooksey?
I did working on another I did a couple of years ago. I sang for this thing called Shelter Dogs. You can find it on Spotify. It was like a benefit record for homeless and abused and sheltered animals. And so we put out a record, and we're sort of in the midst of working on another one. And I mean, I write stuff all the time, and just sort of putting one foot in front of the other and see what happens on the next day.
Yeah. Well, guys, go ahead and keep on getting those questions in the comment section. We only have I'd say about 3 more minutes left. So, oh man, I'm running out of things to even ask you about. I mean, it's a beautiful countryside behind you. I'll tell you that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's it's peaceful here. I live I'm in Orange County, California, and it's a beautiful day. And
I saw on IMDb. I'm not sure if you're allowed to talk about this new project you're working on, Long Gone Gulch. Is that something that is in the can? Is that something you're shopping around? No,
it was I think they're shopping it around. We did it was a few years ago that they sort of, I did the voice on that, and they're doing their thing, doing the production. It's funny, you do all these little things, and then every once in a while they'll be like, "Oh yeah, you remember that thing you did a while back? Yeah, well, it's starting now. So for the next like year and a half, every Tuesday, this is where you are." It's funny.
Yeah. That's crazy how Hollywood works like that, man. So, I mean, we gotta wrap it up. We got a short commercial break we got to do before we get into our next panel. But I mean, where can people find you? What's some things you're working on right now? And we did get a question, and this is a very interesting one from BA in the house. As what's your favorite episode of Salute Your Shorts?
Oh man, I really enjoyed the doing the one where Kirk Bailey and I, who played the counselor, sort of switched places for a day. That one I think was my favorite. That was a lot of fun to do.
I got a question. Okay, this one just popped in my head, and I'm really excited about this idea I just had. Has there ever been any ideas or pitches for a Salute Your Shorts reboot with Budnick as the camp counselor?
Yeah, that's been. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say it was like within production type of circles, but I've definitely, there's been a few fans and people that have walked up going, "I've got a great idea." I was like, me as the counselor? I've heard it.
Yeah. Oh, but you want us to make Goonies too?
Right. If Nickelodeon is listening, though, it sounds like a good idea to me.
It's a phenomenal idea, and it's pure gold. It cannot lose, guys. We need a resurgence of the Nickelodeon of the 80s and the 90s.
Absolutely gold.
Last question says, since you worked so much as a kid, did you go to public school at all?
Yeah, I mean, at different periods, I went for a few months here and then a little bit there. Not really. Most of the time I was sort of working, and when I did, I went to a couple of private schools that were for I went with other actors and sort of
so not unlike
younger athletes.
Today.
Yeah, no, not anything like that.
Well,
the last couple of years, I actually tried and then went, this is just too much. I was so used to it being such a small, just bang and get it over with that,
See, if you were going to school these days, you could be doing it all online, like every single kid in 2020 right now.
and now suddenly I've become a homeschool teacher.
Yeah, well, guys, Danny, I cannot thank you enough for being on the show. I can't wait to invite you back to future Mainframe Comic Cons. I got so much stuff we get in and talk about. So we got our last comment. It's not even a question; just says awful waffle.
That's right.
Can't end it.
We don't even know what it was. It's like the briefcase from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah. So guys, stick around. We got one more panel here at Mainframe Comic Con. So we're gonna have a short commercial break. Danny, thanks a lot for being here.
No problem, brother. Thanks for having me.
All right, we'll be in touch, man. All right, guys, we'll be right back with Steven Seagal after this commercial break. Check